Hey, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'd like to introduce you to my special guest, Todd, botanist at the Carnivore Cure. And we're here to kind of see his story today. So, yeah,
Right on.
Todd, why don't you tell us about yourself and how you came to carnivore?
For sure. Appreciate you having me, Rebecca. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Yeah, it's been 22 months carnivore now. I was always a big kid when I was young. Was 600 pounds when I was 14 years old. Just always really big, and was fighting what I now know is insulin resistance from a very young
Yeah.
age. Back then we didn't know what that was. I didn't have diabetes when I was 14 years old, but clearly I had all the symptoms and, just always fought it with, 24 to 25 years of calorie restrictive diets and yo-yo diets going up and down. Did that for a long time. And then in 2021, well, in 2016, got a divorce. My dad died. My brother died, all pretty close to each other. My dad and brother died 11 days apart. I got a divorce about 3 months before that. So life was at a bad spot. Plus, my mom had bariatric surgery, and that wasn't working for her. My sister had bariatric surgery. That wasn't working for her. So, just a lot of health problems. And I was fed up with the things that I couldn't really control. They're out of my control, like my brother and dad passing away. So I was just like, I got to do something, right? Because my health was snowballing, and I knew that I was going to be the next on the list to be, a burden for the family and stuff if something didn't change. So back then I was always in, having real health problems with lung problems. Since I was 18 years old, my oxygen saturation in my lungs was 88% because I had some nasty lung issue that I could not ever figure out. It would always turn into bronchitis or pneumonia every winter during cold season. I'd been in the ICU several times on oxygen for that. And it made it really tough to work in construction because, and especially in Montana in the winter, because those things would give you a lung problem, So that was happening, and they would go on for months. If I got a cold in the winter, I would hold on to that thing for 3, 4, 5 months of a lung issue, and it was making it pretty miserable. So the doctors didn't know what to do with it. They did a bunch of tests on it, and finally they said, we don't really know what's happening, but the closest thing that you come close to that we don't think you exactly have it, but is reactive airway disease. So they started treating me for reactive airway disease, even though they didn't think that I had that, which just meant nebulizers, inhalers, steroid inhalers, and Advair. I was taking all those, and it never quite worked. I just never could breathe, and I'd have random tightness in the chest and real low oxygen. A couple of times I got into the high 50% saturation, went to the hospital several times. Usually would end up in the ICU because they needed 12 liters of oxygen to get me back up, and they didn't have it in normal units, So kind of went through many years of that. And so when after Dad and Ty died, I was like, I got to do something. I don't know what, but I got to start cutting out something. So I cut out soda because I knew that was my worst addiction. Of course, back then in 2016, I thought that soda and diet soda were different. So I went to diet soda because I was still on the calorie.
We've all done it. We've all done it.
For sure. And so I went to diet sodas for, I'd say a couple of years. And I was just doing diet soda, unsweetened tea, and unsweetened coffee. And that made a difference. That actually made my lungs a fair amount better. Didn't lose a lot of weight, but my lungs felt a little bit better. And then in about 2000, I went on till that was the end of 2016. So this is about 2018. I decided to figure out a diet that I was going to go on. And my brother was lifting weights and reading weightlifter books back then. And he was reading Frank Zane's book about high protein weightlifter diets, high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrate diets. So that was what I got on. was I was trying to eat a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, and trying to stay under 200 grams of carbs and as low as fat as I could. So it was all dry chicken breast
Wow.
and all that. And I
Ew.
committed to,
Sorry.
yeah.
Ew.
Oh, it was terrible. It was miserable. But that was the silver lining actually in the end, because I've
Yeah.
kept that up for 14 months, and
Okay.
I'd only lost like 37 pounds in 14 months of this ridiculous diet. But I'd always had suicidal depression, anxiety for
Mm.
15 plus years, but this was the worst it had ever been. And I could not figure out why. At the time, I thought that it was from dad and Ty passing and being divorced and life just not being fun at the time. But man, my depression, anxiety was through the roof during that diet. I didn't know why at the time. But after 14 months, I'd made a kind of just a commitment to it that no matter what, I was going to stick to this diet and I wasn't going to fall off the wagon. So after 14 months, so I couldn't eat any more dried chicken. Like I couldn't take it anymore. I'd been eating chicken for every
Mm.
day for 14 months. And so I
Yeah.
looked up online how to cook chicken not dry, and it came up with sous vide cooking. And so I was looking up, well, what is sous vide, how to do it, and it dropped me to a channel on YouTube called Sous Vide Everything, and those guys were always sous videing ribeyes and picanha steaks, and then they would sear them in butter in a butter bath. And so I saw that, and I was like, well, then I'm ordering this sous vide machine. So I ordered one, but I was watching these guys over and over make these picanhas and these ribeye steaks. And I'm like, before I go back, I have got to try one of these ribeye steaks sous vide. And so I bought
Mm.
4 ribeye steaks at Costco, and then I kind of ran the macros. And I was like, if I don't eat the rice, because I was eating brown rice, turkey
Mhm.
sausage, dry white chicken, low fat yogurt. That was most of my diet at the time, and egg whites. And I was like, if I just eat one
Mm.
meal a day and I just have a ribeye seared, at least I won't be too far off on the calories, and I can fit that in my macros. So that's what I did,
Mhm.
but I didn't realize that I was basically going keto at that time, or
Keto.
carnivore even. Yeah. And so I
Yeah.
did that for 4 days, and lo and behold, my depression lifted. And I felt good for the first time in 14 months. And I lost 9 pounds in that 4 days of fluid, you know?
It's like the accidental carnivore. Oops.
Was. I was like, I had no idea what was going on, but mentally I felt so good and I had so much energy for the first time in 14 months. I was like, what is going on? I breathed better. I just felt better. I wasn't sure what was going on. So I researched. I'm like, how could I possibly be losing weight and feeling good eating ribeyes and butter right now? So that was all I had for 4 days. And it pulled up a ketogenic diet, which was a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it didn't pull up carnivore, it pulled up keto. So I went down the keto path
Yeah.
for a couple of years, which led me down the path of keto snacks and keto fat bombs
Mhm.
and MCT bulletproof coffees and that whole thing, which never got me over any of the carb cravings and never got
Mhm.
me over any of that stuff. But I did lose a little bit of weight. I yo-yoed up and down, but I fought with the cravings, and the depression would come and go depending on how much of the keto junk food I was eating. And that was
Yeah.
going up and down, up and down. And then in 2021, because we pretty much did that till ended 2020 to first of 2021, I decided I was going to do something drastic and I wanted to do a 40-day fast because because I'd always wanted to do one based off of, I forget that guy's name, but he fasted for like 400 days or whatever, lost all the weight. You know that guy?
Yeah, I've seen stuff on him, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, I want to try that, because at this time I was probably about 650 pounds roughly. And my health was going downhill. My lungs were going downhill. And my lymphedema was getting out of control. My legs were swelling up. And so I decided to do this fast, trying to get things on track. Well, at day 21, I was drinking so much water to get that far that I ended up washing out all my potassium, and I didn't know it at the time. And I didn't even know this was possible. But on day 21, I started having asthma attacks, like really bad. I couldn't breathe, couldn't figure out what was going on. And it turned out that I'd lost so much potassium by drinking so much water that I'd actually affected my blood plasma, and it wasn't holding red blood platelets anymore. I didn't realize that potassium was important for holding red blood platelets in your plasma for some reason. So I had to go in and get red blood cell injections because my plasma was so low, or red blood cells. And when I did that, my immune system was pretty well shot. And I went to the hospital, and I caught COVID while I was in there. I didn't know it, but I came home and I caught COVID. And a friend of mine had COVID at the same time, who was same age as me, but exponentially healthier. And he went in the hospital. He was 38 years old, went in the hospital, put him on a respirator, and he died right at that time. So he died basically about 4 days before I got the sickest on COVID. And then it turned into pneumonia. But after seeing my friend die, I was like, I'm not going to the hospital because I didn't believe in it. So I stayed at home, and I was like, I'm either going to live or die. And I fought that thing, and I had a fever over 102 to 103 for 13 days. I was coughing up blood, and I was coughing up these blood clots out of my lungs. And I just had to, I was doing nebulizer treatments. I was doing oregano oil. I was doing ivermectin at home, all this stuff. And I was fighting it and praying a lot, and did that. And it lasted about 2 weeks, and I survived it, went away, but something bad had happened. I wasn't sure what had happened, but I gained about 84 pounds of fluid in 3 weeks. And my body just swelled up something fierce. I was just swollen as could be. My face was swollen. My belly was swollen. My legs were swollen. And I was sick as a dog. And my oxygen was down in the 70s, And so I was trying to clear up that. So I was trying to eat strict keto at the time. I was trying to come back from all that, but couldn't breathe, couldn't sleep. And every time I'd fall asleep, I'd wake up and something was happening in the night because my oxygen would drop real low. And I'd have this terrible headache that was just, it would make you disoriented. And I think I was just stopping breathing in the night is what was happening, but I'm not 100% sure. But that went on for a long time. So I'd go back and forth and not breathe and wake up, and I'd sleep in 1 hour intervals, 2 hour intervals. And that went on for about 3 months. And I was getting some of the fluid off, but my legs were so big and so heavy, I didn't even know what to do with them. Like I'd have to, I was stuck in a chair at this point. I was in a recliner, and I really couldn't, I couldn't stand for 90 seconds at a time. And my legs were so heavy. My right calf and my left calf were over 36 inches in diameter. And they're so heavy that they would break the recliner footstool to lay up at night. So I used to have to buy different footstools, and I had to tie ropes around my legs and lift them up on the footstool because my legs were so heavy I couldn't get them up on the footstool. And then that was creating massive knee pain. And then when they're up, my legs were so heavy it was actually pulling on my hips. And a couple of times my left hip would get halfway out of joint because my legs were pulling on them so hard. It was crazy how much fluid I'd built up. But I was fighting it, and I was trying to figure out what to do, and was trying to fight it. And then one day, after about 3 months of that, I'd lost some weight, not sure how much, but I just could feel it and see the difference. But I was feeling a little bit better, but I'd finally fallen asleep. But this one was different. I don't know how long I stopped breathing, but when I woke up, something bad had happened. I'm not sure what it was. They think it might have been a stroke, but I was too big to fit in an MRI machine for them to take an MRI. But they think I might have had a stroke. Because when I woke up, I had the worst headache. I didn't know what day it was, what time it was. And I kind of lost the ability to smoothly articulate sentences. I couldn't remember words or recall words or put them together. And when I woke up, my oxygen was 57% on my oxygen saturation monitor. And Usually when it would get down into the 70s and even 60s, I could take deep breaths for a while and get it back in about an hour, and the fat head feeling would go away, and I would start getting my bearings back. But this time, 6 hours later, I still didn't feel right. My oxygen was way low. I was just in bad shape. So we had to call an ambulance, and I was huge. And so they had to bring in a bunch of firefighters to help get me to the ambulance, and take me to the
Yeah.
hospital. And of course, when you're that big, that's what you avoid at all costs. You'd rather die than go through that. But went through it, and they put me in the ICU for 11 days, and they pumped a bunch of fluid off me. Well, they were using IV Lasix, and getting
Yeah.
fluid off
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And so we did that for 11 days. I think they got 57 or 60 pounds of fluid off me or something in that time. But they ran all these tests, and that's when they told me I had congestive heart failure, I had sleep apnea, that I probably had a stroke, that I had COVID lung, and I needed to see a pulmonologist, a cardiologist, a sleep specialist, and they just gave me this long list of new specialists that was now going to be my regular thing. They gave me blood thinners to take home with me and put me on a bunch of statins and just all this crap, all these prescriptions that I was supposed to start taking. And
How many meds did you end up on?
they put me on. They gave me 5 or 6, and I be honest with you, I couldn't tell you because they were giving me them in the hospital. They gave me prescriptions to fill, and I threw them away. I never filled the one of them, not a single one,
Okay.
because my dad had his first heart attack when he was 38 years old after getting out of the Marines, and it was because he got doused with Agent Orange. But I watched my dad go through the medical system, and all that ever happened was he went to more and more specialists, got more and more pills. His health declined, and then he died. And then my brother, he got my brother at 38. We were working in North Dakota in the oil field as electricians, and we all got a cold virus, and he went to the urgent care there, and they gave him prednisone instead of an antibiotic for his inflammation in his lungs. But what the urgent care did was they screwed up, because I guess you're only supposed to take prednisone for 5 days if you have an active virus, up to 5 days. And they gave him like 12 days worth of pills, and they misprescribed him. So Ty was taking those prednisone, but he took them too long, and it knocked his immune system out because they're steroid. And then his active virus turned into a lung infection that spread to his heart, and that's what killed him at 38, was that it ruined his heart. So, but Ty lived for 2 years after. He had 13 heart attacks from that heart infection, and it ruined his heart. And he was waiting on a transplant list, and he couldn't even sit up. His heart wouldn't pump hard enough to pump blood to his brain if he was sitting up, And so Ty laid in a bed for 2 years, and I watched him go to all these appointments. He had a pacemaker and a defibrillator installed and do all this stuff. I just never seen anybody get better. And then Ty died in the nursing home, 2 years, about almost 2 years later. So when I got subscribed all this medicine and all these new specialists, I was like, I'm not doing that. I watched Dad and Ty do that. I've never seen anybody that goes down this road get healthier. I've never seen anybody that goes down this road thrive after this. Like, it's just accepting that it's the end. And I looked at the 2 years that Ty had and all the time that Dad had spent sick taking this medicine. I was like, I'm going to do this a different way, or I'm just going to die and not be here. And that coincided pretty well with the suicidal depression, because I really didn't want to be here anyways. So it wasn't much of a risk, right? So I threw it all away, and I'm like, I'm not doing any of this. Some fun things did happen. They sent me home with oxygen, which that was an immediate benefit. So I did use the oxygen because that made you feel better, immediately. So I was using the oxygen. I was on 6 liters of home oxygen. And then I don't know, it was this kind of a miracle in a way, because all of a sudden we got a CPAP machine in the mail. I never went to the sleep study, but we got a CPAP machine in the mail. And what it was my dad's had a CPAP and it hits life, that for some reason the VA didn't realize that dad had passed away, and they sent him a new CPAP after 8 years, said that his needed an upgrade because that model was whatever,
Mhm.
past due. So in the mail to the house, the CPAP shows up right about then. That was for my dad, and I thought that's crazy. And so they told me that I had sleep apnea. My dad had sleep apnea. My mom had sleep apnea. So I looked up, it was a Panasonic one. I looked up, how do you program this for you? Can you do it at home? And I actually found some people that had YouTube videos how to program it. So I played around with the
Mhm.
settings and I set it for myself until something worked. And that was kind of a game changer. And it had the fitting on it that your oxygen hose would go to your CPAP. And so
Mhm.
I started using that, and I started being able to sleep without stopping breathing, which was also pretty amazing to finally get into a REM sleep. That was kind of a game changer because when the first night
Yeah.
that I slept, I realized that I don't know how many years it's been since I'd been in REM sleep, but it was a long time because I thought I'd slept for like 12 hours and I'd slept for like 2 hours, but I got into a REM sleep and it was put me into a different universe. It was pretty crazy. So that
Yeah.
was kind of one of the turnarounds. And I stopped taking all the medicine, but I did use the oxygen, the CPAP at night.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, well, if we're going to live, we got to do something. And so
Yeah.
I decided to do real strict keto at the time. And I'm like, okay. I couldn't hardly move. I was sick as a dog. I was heavy as a dog, like I couldn't move. So I just started building up a little environment around me. So I bought a little mini fridge and I put it to the right of me. I was ordering uh, groceries on Instacart, and I bought some little cookers and a table to sit in front of me. So I made this little room around where I was. And I decided that the easiest thing that was going to be for me to eat was going to be taco salads. So I was making taco salads. But and then I also decided that I was going to get rid of diet drinks at the time.
Okay.
Diet drinks being the way harder ones. And I wasn't fully successful at that right away. But as I was doing the taco salads and stuff, I was realizing that the cheese wasn't really helpful. The seasoning that I was putting in the meat wasn't really helpful. So I just started pulling things out one at a time. And I pulled the salsa out of the taco salad, and I pulled the cheese out of the taco salad. I pulled the sour cream out. Pretty soon I was down to just hamburger, kale, and that was pretty much it. It was just hamburger on lettuce. And I didn't like the lettuce, and it was going bad in the refrigerator all the time anyway. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm just going to get rid of this lettuce and I'm going to start making boiled eggs and having it with boiled eggs. So I landed on
Okay.
hamburger and boiled eggs, basically, in place of the salad. And I didn't mean to go carnivore, but then I started looking at it and I was like, and by this time I was listening to Dr. Barry and
Mhm.
listening to everybody. And so I'm like, all right, I think I'm just going to do this carnivore thing. But I also still was listening to Dr. Berg at the time. And
Okay.
so, because he was my keto guy. And so I was kind of going back and forth, but I was taking some vitamins and some supplements, vitamin D and K2 and
Yeah.
some B12. And I was taking a few things. And I was going through that. But Dr. Berg did have an idea for getting off of soda, and he was making kind of sparkling lemonade with that
Okay.
volcanic organic lemon juice. So I started doing
Mhm.
that, and I basically was just eating hamburger, eggs, and then the sparkling lemonade that was made out of lemon juice, sparkling water, and Dr. Berg's electrolytes. I did that for 5 weeks. Finally broke my addiction to soda,
Yay.
and yeah, I was finally off of that, and that was 22 months ago, and that basically got me fully onto carnivore and pretty much haven't looked back since, but things started getting much better very quickly after that, including, the
Yeah.
biggest things was the inflammation and the swelling in my legs, the color in my face,
Mhm.
my oxygen saturation. When I started this, I had a resting heart rate of 107 beats a minute, just sitting in that chair. And that came way down. I needed less and less oxygen. I was able to stand up
Mhm.
longer, get up easier, move around. And then over the next 6 months, I'd lost that first 6 months, I'd lost like 205 pounds. Yeah. And now,
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And I got all that off, and then it was time for a call. My cardiologist called me and did a Zoom call with me, and he wanted to know why I hadn't come into any of these appointments, and he wanted to know why I hadn't called for a prescription refill. He was worried, and I was like, I never filled one of those prescriptions, not a one. I haven't taken any of the medicine. And he's like, well, what are you doing? We're very worried about your health. I said, I'm down 200 pounds right now, and I'm off the oxygen. My oxygen saturation right now is 96%, and my rested heart rate was 68 beats a minute. You know,
Yes.
I'm like,
Nice.
so I said, I'm doing carnivore. And he goes, I'm worried about your diet. And I said, well, I'm worried about your brain because I think you're having a medical episode and you might need to see a doctor because I'm standing right here in front of you. And if you would have gave me a pill that would have made me lose 205 pounds in 6 months and get off oxygen and to bring my heart rate from 107 beats a minute to 68 beats a minute and make anxiety and depression go away, I'd be the poster boy for a drug company somewhere for this magic pill that you sold me. But because it's the carnivore diet, you're worried about it. And I said, I think that's just the most asinine thing I've ever heard of in my life. So I just, we pretty much parted ways there, and I haven't seen a doctor since that day, which was about 14 months ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And I haven't done anything, but I no longer have any asthmatic symptoms. I no longer have, my oxygen's probably 97% saturation right now as I'm sitting here. My rested heart rate keeps going down. I mean, I have my life back. I'm down 310 pounds now. And, I think
crazy.
clearly.
So where are you at now? You started in the six, like, what did you start out as?
715, 720-ish right in that area. And that's a guess because the first time that I was able to get it on a scale at home, I'd already been on carnivore for about 3 to 4 months. And that got me down to what was it, 647 was when I was finally able. And the reason why I wasn't able to get on the scale was because my calves were so wide, my stance was wider than the scale was because I had so much swelling in my calves. I couldn't get my legs on both my feet on the scale, and it took like 4 months. So over the next 4 months, I took what I had lost on average and I backed up, and that put me at the 715 to 725 mark roughly. So I always just said 715. I could have been 750. I really don't know.
They would have. I wonder if it's in your medical records, like from your last ICU visit, like before you pulled off the fluid, because they usually have the beds that weigh people.
Yeah.
In ICUs.
I'll have to pull it up and see.
I'll have to pull it up and see. Because that would be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't at my heaviest right then because I'd lost a little bit of the fluid, but I was definitely close to my heaviest and then when I was in the hospital. So I will pull that up because I do think I've never logged into it, but my sister used to help me with my medical records and stuff, and she said I have something called the My Chart or something that she can get my record off of. So yeah, I'll have to pull it up. But I was, I wonder if I can share screen.
You might. I don't have it set to where you can't.
Okay, let me see.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, everybody that is watching. You might be able to share. I don't have it to where you can't. You should. I don't have any weird settings.
Okay, no worries. I'll pull this over and see.
You're one of those people with multiple screens, aren't you?
I am. I have lots of screens.
I am so low tech, everybody. I have my MacBook Pro. I have a $40 box light, and I have AirPods. That's it.
That works. Can you pull up that screen at the bottom for me? There we go.
And
yeah, so this is kind of, and I'm actually 100 pounds lighter right now than my lightest picture here. I got to update this, but this was.
You do need to update it.
Yeah. This is where I was at my heaviest. That was when I was stuck in oxygen, roughly. That's when I was stuck in that chair. I still have this green shirt, and it is massive now. That's pretty funny. And then this picture right here was actually when I was this was when I was able to weigh. So I know I was about 640 pounds in this picture. But that was when I was able to, like, my face does not look good in here because I was off my oxygen because I had to get to the bathroom to be able to take this picture. But you can see my oxygen was not good in these pictures, right? So
No.
I was still working on getting off the oxygen. And then, things got better. And this is basically where I was when I talked to my cardiologist. I'd already lost over 200 pounds. But, and this is also just kind of I don't know. It's also, people don't realize it, but I weigh 500 pounds in this picture. They think I weigh like 350 or 400 pounds. And I don't. I weigh 500 pounds in this picture. And I've always weighed super heavy my whole life. And I think it's just from carrying around a 600-pound body my whole life. I think you just get a certain size frame or something. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. And like, this was at my dad's funeral, and that was 650 pounds there, I remember. But then we did an overlay on that. That was 200 pounds gone, the size difference. And so
So amazing.
pull that down. And that's all fine and good. But the real miracle to carnivore to me, and the reason why I know it's the answer, is because I don't have any addictions anymore at all. So many things have happened. I used to have a gambling addiction. I used to have, sugar addiction, soda addiction, caffeine addiction, nicotine addiction. Those are all gone. They are all completely gone. And it's because I realized that I think the chemical imbalance in your brain and the hormonal imbalance that I was going through from insulin resistance and all the crap, I think that is mainly what was causing the anxiety and the depression. And I think most of the compulsive nature is just like I don't know, it's like like a self-medicating phenomenon or something.
Yeah.
Because I completely lost all my compulsive behavior when I got the keto, the carnivore calm. I don't have any of those anymore. Even I never planned on quitting nicotine. I chewed Copenhagen for 26 years and I quite enjoyed it. And I just woke up one day and my body's like, we're not chewing Copenhagen anymore. That was last October 26th, and I haven't touched it since. It's almost a year,
Yeah.
So
That's insane. So, you're on this journey. You kind of fell accidentally into carnivore, which is kind of, I find that awesome. Like, it's like you tripped and fell into it. And so now what are you doing? Like, I know everybody knows you got a channel, because you've got way more subscribers than I do. And most of them are in the chat, which is super nice of them. So, what are you doing to help people? Because you've done so many things, you've healed so many things. So now what?
Well, so I did trip and fall into it, but I believe that I got led to it because I say I give carnivore too much credit sometimes for what I think God did. This all started on my knees because I basically said, God, I've never seen the doctors and the medical system heal anybody, especially not Dad and Ty. So I'm giving this to you, and I'm going to trust it, in your hands. I'm going to find healing, or I'm going to come see you and Dad and Ty, and it'll all be fine anyways, and that's kind of where I was with it. And sure enough, when I surrendered all that, everything changed, So with that in mind, I got, all I could do was watch YouTube videos, and I was watching, at first I was watching the keto stuff, and then I got into the carnivore stuff. And when I got into the carnivore stuff, I found Homestead How. Carrie Mann was one of the channels I watched. I mean, I watched Barry. Yeah. One of the first people that I actually watched on it was Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. And I was watching those guys. But then as I was researching more, Barry was the third person. And then just kind of went down that road. And then I saw Carrie Mann early on. And I even sent Carrie a message, and he commented back and he said, that's crazy. And I told him what was going on, because that was in the middle of me working on losing a couple hundred pounds. But then that was when Bill Knott put that video out, or sent Carrie the message, and Carrie put that video out. And I was sitting here going, I need to talk to Bill, because when I was looking at carnivore, I still had all this these doubts that this was going to work, because I was like, I'm too far gone. I'm too sick. I got too much weight.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't know if this is going to work, but and then how your negative thoughts hit you. You're like, yeah, well, that
Yeah.
worked for so and so, but they were only 400 pounds. They were only 500 pounds, whatever. I'm 700 pounds. This isn't going to work. Well, then when I saw Bill, I related to that, and I'm like, Bill needs to know this works. Like, it's okay to get excited about this. It's okay to pour everything into it. It's not a fad diet. It's not something that's going to let you down. This actually pays you back, and it is the most effective thing that I've ever done. Yeah. So I didn't know how to get a hold of Bill, so I started a YouTube channel, and my first two videos were just to get a hold of Bill. I made my story video so that when Bill would get a message, he would see it and see what I went through. And then I sent a message to Bill Knott. And that's when I put that out there. And that kind of got things rolling and kind of got my name out there. And I finally did get a hold of Bill Knott. I got a hold of Carrie Mann. And that's when I found out they were doing the Healing Humanity documentary, and kind of became a partner with them. Going to Wisconsin next meet with Carrie and Dr. Kiltz and others. Yeah, I know. I wish I could be there too. That'd be awesome. That's awesome. And so I started talking with Carrie.
I was going to say, speaking of Carrie.
Yeah, exactly. And I started talking with Carrie right about then. And then when I was doing that as well, a lady named Limitless Lindy emailed me, and she said, I just started the channel.
She might be watching. she was earlier.
And there she is right there. And Lindy said she had commented, I think, actually. And she said, I lost 500 pounds. I was 800 pounds. And so we ended up messaging back and forth. And we ended up having a call here on StreamYard, actually. You're always working. Hey, Lindy. And
she's lurking.
And it was nice to talk to somebody that had been in kind of the same boat, and so we laughed about certain things that you'd only know if you had been as big as we were, kind of funny little anecdotal things, and things like our treadmill, skipping the, trying to walk on the treadmill and the tread skipping off the treadmill and stuff, just little things like that. And we said, we should maybe start having this conversation on YouTube, and then people that are in our shoes will relate to what we're saying.
Yeah.
And so we started a live stream every Sunday called 700 Plus and Counting Down. And sure enough, within like the second or third episode, Michael found us, and he is in Chicago. He was 700 pounds, 721 pounds or something. And he hadn't left his house in like 17 years. And he found us. And so he started coming on our show with us, and he's down like 156 pounds now. He's a little bit older, and he's got bigger medical issues because he has really bad lymphedema. Like his legs are ginormous, and he has some huge growths, so he's struggling with that, but he's doing a lot better.
Yeah.
And so he started helping us. And then that kind of took off, and that led to Amy or Lindy. I saw Amy at Amy Alcohol Addiction is going in the chat down here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, Lindy brought me to the Steak and Butter Gang. And because right about there, I was about 9 months into carnivore at that point, but I had been under eating because I was stalling out, and I was under eating.
Oh yeah.
And I kept doing it, kept under eating. So I was down to like 1,400 calories a day, less than a pound of meat a day. And I was not losing any weight, and I was getting kind of burnt out. I was losing energy. I wasn't sleeping good. And, my kind of some anxiety and depression were even coming back. And I was like, what's going on? And that was when she's like, well, why don't you try the Steak and Butter Gang? So I ended up joining the Steak and Butter Gang, where I learned about priming, and that turned everything around for me. I did the priming, and that was when things really started healing. Composition changes started happening. So I was all in for the Steak and Butter Gang. I'm like, this priming protocol really works, because I experienced it myself. I went from not losing any weight and feeling terrible at 1,400 calories a day of the super strict carnivore, to eating 7 pounds of meat a day and about 7,000 calories a day. And I gained 21 pounds in 6 months, but I lost 3 shirt sizes, got a ton of strength back. I started growing my hair back. My eyebrows grew back. My eyesight got 3 prescriptions better because the retinal edema in my eyes healed. And I saw
Nice.
what healing does for you. And so that all turned around and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I became really good friends with Steak and Butter Gang and Bella, the Steak and Butter gal, and Max, her husband,
Yeah.
and the whole SBG team over there. Coach Raymond and Coach Rochelle and Coach Amy and Lindy and Jeff and all those guys. And just made real good friends over there. Now I'm an admin over at the Steak and Butter Gang and do a show called Iron Sharpens Iron with Chad Combat Carnivore on Saturdays.
I like that. Iron
Yeah.
sharpens iron. We have it's a Bible verse, if people don't know that. It's like iron sharpens iron, so as one man sharpens another. And me and my husband have matching T-shirts that say that, and
Yeah.
so it's one of our little sayings. So I love that.
Yeah, well, and that's what. So me and Chad do a live stream on YouTube on Thursdays. It's called Iron Sharpens Iron, and what we're trying to do. So, I've been on YouTube now about 14 months, and a lot of people reach out to me on social media. Period. And a lot of people reach out to me and need help, and I've been trying to help them over the last 14 months. But the problem is I can only talk to them for about an hour. Sometimes 2 hours a week. But the rest of the time, the other 167, 166 hours a week, they're out there in the world where everybody's telling them that they're crazy for eating meat and that they're going to have a heart attack and they're going to have, cancer and they're going to have high cholesterol and they're going to, they tell them this is crazy. And so I always lose them after 2 or 3 weeks. Nobody can hang on because they don't have a community, And so I realized right away that people need a community, right? Whatever one it is. And I've been part of Barry's community, which is an awesome community. I've been part of Baker's community. And I've been part of Bella's community. And I just really enjoy the support they have for people starting carnivore. Like if somebody asks me and they need blood, like they have blood test and they need real medical attention, I always say Barry's group is the best for getting technical, medical information. I don't think
that's
anybody.
what we do.
Yeah, for sure. So I send them to you guys. And then, but when people are having sugar addiction and carb addiction, I think SBG does the best at getting them off there because I watch them because they have 4, open chats every week. I do an open chat on Saturday as well that are just Zoom calls where people can come in and just talk about it with coaches and people that have been through it. They do a sugar addiction meeting. Amy does a troubleshooting meeting in there. We do a men's only meeting in there. We do an NSV meeting, a fasting meeting, a priming meeting, all in Zoom, where people have pretty much a meeting to go to almost every day of the week. I think there's only one day that doesn't have a Zoom meeting. And people can go in there and it becomes their community. It becomes their new, focus so that they're not on their own.
Almost like a family.
Yeah, exactly. And so we find that they are way more successful when they can get support every day because they get it, they get so many questions answered and there's so many tips and tricks on how to get, how to be accountable and how to get through the carb addiction cravings. Like one of my biggest tricks that I found accidentally was, which I found later, Kelly Hogan talking about it. And I didn't even realize I was doing this, but I was basically tricking my own brain because I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have like a panic attack and my brain would be like, you can't keep doing this. This is not sustainable. There's no way you're going to be able to not eat sugar and pizza and drink the soda. And I didn't realize that it was just that 3:30 in the morning cortisol kick in that happens to everybody. And it was causing my anxiety to go through the roof. And I didn't realize it, but most of my dopamine fixes that I was doing with sugar were actually just treating anxiety, right? Like I was quelching that head that was screaming. So I'd wake up in the morning and that was the worst time for me because my brain was telling me you gotta go get soda and pizza or you're gonna, like this is just stupid. And so finally I had to I had to make a deal with myself, and I was like, look, all you have to do is get to the counter here and make bacon and eggs and eat it till you're stuffed. And if you do that, and an hour later, if you still want pizza and soda this bad, then you can order it and have all you want. And so I just made that one deal with myself, and every day I'd wake up, I'd be panicking, all this stuff would be happening, and I'd actually start getting excited about eating bacon and eggs because it was the gateway that was going to get me to soda and pizza, because I just had to get that down first. And so I'd eat that,
Yeah.
but that would give me enough strength to ride it out, and I wouldn't have to get the pizza, right? It would let me fight another day. And pretty soon after a week or so, I woke up one day and I was like, I need bacon. I need bacon and eggs. And I was like, what? I was having a panic, anxiety attack, but all of a sudden I wasn't craving soda and pizza. I was craving bacon and eggs. So just little things like that I see. Everybody's got tips and tricks that they've done, and I mean, some of the people in there have been doing it for 7-8 years, and it's so handy to have that kind of, I don't know, real experience of people that have gone through the trenches ahead of you and kind of broke trail to give you their best tips and tricks to getting through that stuff. So with that in mind, I met Chad when I was at Bella's wedding in Wyoming, and he was talking about how he had healed his PTSD with carnivore, and that he wanted to start doing that. And so when that was a thing, I was like, well, that sounds fantastic, because one thing that always surprised me was that I did this for weight, and the anxiety and depression going away was just a shock to me. I didn't know that had anything to do with that. I just thought it was because I was sick and my life was kind of in a rough spot with all the weight and health problems. So I thought that's why I was full of anxiety and depression. I had no idea that it was, diet related. So that became part of my story, because that did shock me. But I thought that people would mostly relate with me on the weight level. But 80% of the people that contact me are contacting me about mental health, not weight. And so when I heard that Chad had cured PTSD, and knowing how bad the suicidal depression anxiety was, I was like, we should try to start a men's group and get men in there. And that's when I started Iron Sharpens Iron, and we have a Zoom call in the SBG, but we also have a call on YouTube. But my goal is to get people from YouTube to SBG, and I don't get paid anything for doing this. I don't take any money from SBG because that's just a passion project. But I don't think that they have a chance outside of a community if they're not there where we can talk with them and get them off the sugar addiction, and to get them off of the carb addiction and alcohol addiction and everything else that people are on. If they don't have a community that can support them through that every day, I don't think they have much of a chance. So I just want to get them over to SBG, have these talks with them so that they can realize that these things can be cured with diet. And then they also have support from the coaches on how to get over sugar addiction and how to actually get their diet under control and be accountable with the community and see, I love the NSV meetings. We're having one right after this call, in fact, which stands for non-scale victories, which will, 100 plus people will show up, and they all have crazy victories every week of, new medications they got off and new things that have healed. And I mean, it's just incredible,
I love that. So we do have a question in the comments.
Yeah.
Can you explain priming? And I don't know as much about priming as what I'd like to either. So, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I'm on a prime right now, right? I do aggressive fasting for the autophagy because I have serious lymphedema issues. And so I do very aggressive fasting. But we all, long story short, whether you were on the roller coaster of crash dieting and restrictive dieting, or if you were just on a nutriently empty diet like the standard American diet, most of us are nutriently deficient and we have been under eating. And So long story short is when I started carnivore, I got, you start getting leptin sensitivity back and you start healing a little bit of insulin resistance. Well, when you do that, it becomes even easier to eat less. And everybody thinks, oh, that's really good. You can eat less.
Because you're
And
not hungry. I hear this all the time. We hear this all the time in Dr. Barry's community. Oh my gosh, like I'm I just I eat a meal and I'm not hungry. So they're eating 800 maybe calories, 1,000 calories a day. And they're like, I can't get past this on OMAD because I'm not hungry.
exactly. And that's the thing about carnivore and about where we came from. We have disordered eating. We don't even realize it. But if you're on the standard American diet, you probably have disordered eating, plain and simple.
In some way, yeah.
In some way. And long story short, you have not been getting the nutrients that your body needs. And it doesn't even know that your environment can produce those kind of nutrients, depending on how bad your standard American diet was. Mine surely didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So priming is basically an ancestral method of eating like we used to eat, like our ancestors ate, where you didn't calorie restrict, you didn't restrict on anything. You feasted when you got a hunt and you would eat your fill. And then your body would be nourished and your body would have a really healthy, high metabolism because it would need you to have energy because you need to go kill another animal, which would take explosive energy. But you might not eat for 3 or 4 days. So they do a feasting and fasting protocol over there. But the feasting part to start with, when we all come from this, is priming, and that can take 2 weeks. It can take a year. It's really up to how sick a person is or how metabolically, how much metabolic disease a person has. And for me, it took 6.5 months. I went from doing 9 months of OMADs. Like I could do an OMAD standing on my head. I did not care at all. And I was under eating, but I was getting really tired. I was, back to being real depressed and, just had depression, anxiety. I mean, it was all coming back. Had no metabolism. I didn't even know what that felt like back then. I didn't know the difference because I'd never had a good metabolism. But when I started doing carnivore at first, I got it back and then it kind of faltered. But long story short is they have you eat 3 meals a day till comfortably stuffed, but you have to do it on a schedule. And they'll even at the first week or two, they'll have you put snacks in between there. But what they're doing is they're just trying to make sure that you're training your body, that there's to eat, to want the food, to train your gut microbiome, but also to train your body that you are in a plentiful environment where it's safe to raise your metabolism because it's plentiful. There's plenty of food around. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, I went from only doing OMADs and eating like 1,400 calories a day to I got ravenous. I could not get more than 1.25 pounds of meat down a day. And I got ravenous. My hunger opened up. I got ravenous and I was eating 7 pounds of meat a day and did that for almost 6 months. And during that time, everything healed. Everything healed. It was crazy. And I was testing it to see if I was ready to stop priming yet or not and to start fasting. I just did 9 months of OMADs. I tried to do one OMAD. I couldn't do it. I woke up in the night about ready to eat my pillow. My metabolism was through the roof and my body was healing. And your appetite opens up and your body wants to heal. So during that time, I gained 21 pounds, but I lost 3 shirt sizes. And this is what we call composition changes, right? I was gaining lean body mass, muscle density, and my body was healing everything. And I went from only sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night to I needed like 9 hours of sleep because your body wants to knock you out, take all of those building
to heal.
Yeah, to heal. Just wants to heal.
That's insane. I'm wondering, like, I have been looking at this because I come from a background because I grew up in the 90s. I grew up, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. Fat makes you fat, eat less, move more. So I came from that era. And, when I went carnivore back in 2023, I noticed that it was harder to eat. It's harder to eat. It's harder. Like, I still don't eat a whole lot. Luckily, I'm still in, well, I guess you could say luckily, I'm still in like the fertile years. So I have the hormone fluctuations that do trigger some like
for sure
increases in food. But I've been wondering if I should be priming because maybe I'm not getting enough.
I think
Because I
anybody,
think I'm probably averaging maybe 1,600 calories a day,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think that that's enough.
No, Coach Amy would tell everybody that every woman needs at least 1.5 to 2 pounds of meat a day minimum, and most women
Yeah.
aren't eating anywhere close to that. And I mean, I'm a huge believer in it now because I've felt it. I've now had to prime because you don't just always prime or always fast. You do a big
Hmm.
initial prime, but then you have to do some small reprimes in between. And so I just this year already I've done 12 7-day fasts this year, and I do them
Mm.
because for the autophagy for healing my
Hmm.
lymph impacted tissue on my legs, which has worked
Yeah,
fantastic. I've taken 9 inches of tissue off of my right calf and like 10 inches off my left calf, which,
that's great.
yeah, that that's not supposed to go away. That hard and impacted
No.
lymphatic tissue is supposed to be there and you're supposed to have it liposuctioned or else it's going to stay there. Well, I've lost massive amounts of that hard impacted lymph tissue off my legs. It's crazy. And
That's amazing.
yeah, and it works. And so I would eat for 7 days, then I fast for seven
Hmm.
days. And I eat for 7 days and I fast for 7 days. And I love it. But I was also paying attention because I got busy over the summer, especially when I went to Wyoming. So I didn't want to be I get a little bit mental and I didn't want to not be fasting or keep my fasting regimen, but I also didn't want to be fasting when I was in Wyoming because I was going to meat stock where we're supposed to taste meat and they're kind of doing a meat
Yeah.
competition. So instead of eating for 7 days, I only ate for 3, and then I went back on another 7-day fast so that I could end the fast before the weekend so that I could be eating when I was in Wyoming and at Bella's wedding. Well, and that
Yeah.
worked fine. But I think between the stress of being there, only eating for 3 days, when I came back, my metabolism started to crash. I felt it. First sign that comes up for me when my metabolism crashing is you get the chills, you get cold to the bone. And that's the sign your metabolism's slowing down. And I woke up one,
That's me.
yep. And that's your metabolism slowing down. And then immediately after that, you get brain fog, right? And you're
Hmm.
trying to recall things, but it's not really happening. Then you find yourself kind of sluggish, a little bit of, you got start to get a little bit irritable, just everything slowing down.
Yeah.
Why? I spotted it immediately. And so I stopped this fast after 6 days. And now
Hmm.
it's been 4 weeks, and I have been eating for 4 weeks. I've gained 34 pounds in 4 weeks now. You know how much I care? Not one bit, because
Zero.
it's all going to come off. I'm going to start fasting as soon as I'm ready, but I bet it'll be probably next week. It'll come off
Hmm.
in 5 days. That 21 pounds that I gained when I was priming for 6 months, that came off in 5 days last time. And this is the
Yeah.
third time now I primed like this and crashed my metabolism and brought it back. It takes usually less than a week to lose all that weight and then some, and then you go further. And all that we're doing is we're nourishing the body. We're
Hmm.
letting you know that we're not in a famine, that we are in the land of plenty and there's plenty of animals to eat. And then your
Yeah.
body will let your metabolism rise. But if you keep restricting, and you get into a calorie deficit for too long, your body gets nervous and it tries to conserve and your
Shuts
metabolism.
it down.
Yeah. There's a great video out there. I got to find it, but it was by Thomas DeLorme, and he had a video where like I think he said his top 10 uh, uh, weight loss advice experts or something interviews that he did. And on
Yeah.
the very first one, he had this guy. I got to go find it again. It was really awesome. He had this guy that trains MMA fighters, like professional MMA fighters, for big ticket fights, for cage fights.
Okay.
And he said when he gets these guys, he puts them, in like a 14, 15, 16-week training period before the fight. And he said that sometimes he'd get these guys, especially if they had like the metamorphosis or whatever you call it, body type, like I do. And he said, these guys, I would start calorie restricting and put them on this diet. They won't lose any weight. I cannot get them to drop weight on a calorie restricted diet. He goes, so maybe we train 14 hours a day and I get them down to 2,200 calories and they're just exerting themselves like crazy and they won't drop weight. He said, what I have to do, he said, is I have to feed them to increase their metabolism first. He said, so I spend weeks feeding them 3,500, 4,000 calorie diets to boost their metabolism. And he said, then I can drop it down to like 2,700 calories, work 10 hours a day, and they'll drop weight because their metabolism's running higher. So you have to build up the metabolism first. You have to nourish the body, give it all the building blocks that it needs to not have it in a, you know, a building block deficit, basically. And it has to feel safe in its environment. And then let go of the weight. You know, it's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And it's definitely something that I've wanted to look into priming, because I just don't know if I can eat that much. I can try. I sure can give it a good old try, but
when you have to eat. And so the first 5 weeks of priming, the first time that I did it, it was harder to do that than it was to do the first 5 weeks of carnivore. It was worse than the keto or, you know, carb withdrawals. It was worse than the keto flu. Because
what schedule do you do it on? Do you still keep it within a small window, or?
No, so at first you have to eat 3 meals a day until stuffed, plus some snacks if you can get them in. Then you go down to just 3 meals a day, but you also stop drinking coffee and any of that stuff, and you just have food and water. And then, but you have to eat on a schedule, and you start doing that, and you can have all the carnivore foods though. Like for me, when I'm having a hard time priming because my appetite's not opening up, I immediately cheat and go straight to dairy. Because if I add dairy in, my appetite's gonna open up. That's like my trigger to open up my appetite.
Oh, dairy.
Yeah.
Oh, cheese. Cheese is like the devil for me.
Exactly. Me too. I don't eat it normally unless I'm gonna prime and I need to open up my appetite quick. That casing it's for turning little cows into 400-pound steers, like Charlie would always say. So it opens up your appetite. So use a little bit of cheese. Your appetite opens up. You start use that to put in more meat, have a little bit of cheese with a lot of meat, and that'll open up your appetite. You start getting it in, you'll start seeing your appetite go up. But you're like Coach Amy always say, that you're going to feel lethargic when you're doing it right. And you do. You eat, you feel tired, but literally that consistency of putting the building blocks in, getting a good amount of REM sleep, letting your body heal, and going through that for just a few weeks opens up your appetite. And then pretty soon you're ravenous because there's this land of plenty. You know, your body's like, oh, we have this plentiful environment. You start putting it in, you start noticing things are healing. I mean, I grew back hair. It's crazy, but I have some hair growing on my head. I've been bald since I was 18 years old. I didn't even know this had to do with malnourishment. And I had lost the back third of my eyebrows, which I didn't even know was from hypothyroidism. That all grew back. My eyebrows completely grew back, which was nuts. And all this stuff started coming back together. And I even have a note here from my optometrist because I thought my eyes were getting worse. And I went into my optometrist after 7 months of priming. I was like, I can't see nothing. He's like, you were just in here 7 months ago and got glasses. He goes, these don't even look like your retinal scans. You look like you have 2 different eyes now. And he wrote me a letter saying that the metabolic changes were insane because it looked like I had 2 different retinas because I had lost.
You healed your retinas.
My retinas had healed. I haven't, since I was 14 years old, I have not been able to get contacts or LASIK surgery because my astigmatism was so bad that it wasn't available for me. For the first time in my life, I can get both of them now. But even my optometrist said, he goes, with the metabolic changes your body's going through, he said, I wouldn't do it until you lose all the weight because your eyes are going to keep changing. And he said, so you don't want to put a bunch of money into it now. Wait until you've got all the weight off and see where your metabolic changes kind of stay, you know? But yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. It's very healing.
It is incredible. So, I mean, I don't know when's your next live. What time's your next live?
I got an hour almost. I got to be out of here in 45 minutes.
Okay. So let's talk about then the project that we're working on together.
Absolutely.
So Todd is also part of the Healing Humanity crew. Now tell us what you do at Healing Humanity, because I don't even know if I know 100% what all you do. You do a lot of things behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know what I do exactly either. So right now I made some donations with them. I paid for the writing on the Healing Humanity website. And then I met up with Adam and Carrie at Hack Your Health in Texas. We rented a big Airbnb. We did a big live stream together. We're just trying to get the information out there. I'm trying to right now is a busy time for me at work, but I'm also trying to spend more time in the Healing Humanity community as well, and hope to be doing more calls with them in the future. But right now, my schedule's gotten so out of hand I'm in electrical construction in the on my day job, so that's been going kind of crazy lately. So I've been kind of busy,
Yeah.
but yeah, mainly just trying to help them get the word out and just being support there anywhere that we can help them, and trying to help with the website and stuff. And that's basically what we're doing. Just wanted to be a part of it in any way we can, and get the word out. And that's what I'm doing right now with them. But yeah, the project is just amazing. They're coming up here. I think Carrie said he's coming up here end of next month or something. I'll have to see, because there's been some stuff going on lately. But I believe that he's coming up to film, I think, end of next month, if I'm not mistaken, or first of January.
Thank you, Limitless Lindy. Yeah, so some of you we've probably already heard that we've lost one of our friends this week on Sunday. Jeff DeProsperous did pass and is now at home and at peace.
What a fight.
If he fought so hard, and he's such an inspiration to so many people. And even like I shared it over in Dr. B's community, was like, those of you that are following, the Healing Humanity story, and, keeping an eye out for the documentary, I just wanted to let you know about Jeff DeProsperous. And it's been just huge support for him and his family, over there too. So, I think that it's important that we talk about it, though, as a community, and as part of the documentary, because people are worried that this is going to backlash. And I'm like, how can it backlash? Because he was given 2 months.
Yeah, I'm not.
He was given like 2 months, and like he had 30 months with his beautiful boys and his beautiful wife, that he wouldn't have had. And
he thrived.
He thrived, absolutely.
My dad had cancer. That's what he passed away from, was leukemia. And he didn't thrive. He didn't thrive like Jeff thrived. And it's because he followed the cancer diet, the standard American regimen, and he didn't thrive. Jeff thrived. And, the fact of the matter is carnivore isn't a miracle pill. It can't, if the damage goes so far, there's only so much that you can heal from. But, I'm surprised at how far that can go, though, how much it really can heal. Your body can heal from a lot,
Yeah.
But, Jeff just took Jeff was unfortunate in that way, that he the damage was too far gone. But even with that, I love when he said, he goes, I'm in the best shape of my life. I just happen to have stage 4 cancer. He looked amazing. He was thriving. He had more energy than I still have to this day. And so to me, it's just an inspiration, because we got to carry on Jeff's fight, right?
Well, it's amazing, because as a hospice nurse, I see so many cancer patients that are given 6 months to live, and they do not look like Jeff did.
Right.
They don't. Like, they look sick. Jeff didn't look sick, and he didn't feel sick. And it just shows that you can absolutely extend your life and extend, what's the word your quality. So it's about quality. Yeah, your quality over quantity. And I've told other people this, I would rather have 5 great years with my autoimmune diseases than 10 really crappy ones.
For sure.
And I think that we need to set some expectations. Can this heal so many things? Absolutely. We know people that's healed congestive heart failure. It's healed lung disease. It has healed cancer in some people. it's healed anorexia and bulimia and mental health disorders. It puts into remission autoimmune diseases and fights inflammation. And we've seen CAC scores start to reverse. Now that is an anomaly, but we have seen that happen. And it does a lot of great things, but it's not going to make you bulletproof, which is what Dr. Berry says. He's like, his diet doesn't make you bulletproof, but it does make you harder to kill. And I love that. And I think that it's super important that we don't sugarcoat anything, and like we lay it out there and we tell people, this will give you a better quality of life, but it's not going to make you immortal.
Right, exactly. And we got to stop this nonsense about, if a carnivore dies because of a heart attack or because of cancer, well, what do vegans die of? What do vegetarians die of? Like this is nonsense, right?
They're immortal.
Right. Exactly. Other than
COVID still kills. The influenza still kills, pneumonia still kills, autoimmune diseases still kill, and it doesn't make you immune from all those things.
Right. But it does give you a heck of a better fighting chance,
Oh yeah, and it does reverse diabetes, and it can save your kidneys, and it can save your limbs.
Well, and I keep hearing people over and over. I cannot believe how people over and over are getting healed from, ADHD, depression, anxiety, all these mental.
Right?
They're one of the first things to go. And I mean, I've lost 3 people in the last 24 months to suicide that are, friends in my life. And I'm just sitting here going, they've been seeing the same doctors that I saw my whole life about this. And they ended up succumbing to it. And what healed me was literally 3.5 weeks of carnivore. Took away
of real meat.
Yeah, of real meat. And it was just the fat. Yeah, it was just the fat. Just the nutrients, Yeah. And so, which is exactly why we're doing iron sharpens iron, because I sit here and I go, how can people be taking all these drugs like Jordan Peterson that's so hard to come off of, and all it took was meat,
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane.
Keep what I'm doing and watch. Yeah, for sure.
Watch what gets better each day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much
Amy
better.
is a big fan of yours, by the way. If you don't know Amy's the one that does the books with Lynn.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. That's awesome. We haven't met yet. That's awesome.
No, she says you're very inspiring.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. I find so many people in this community inspiring, and that's what I love about these communities, is that everybody should get inspired because when you're out here in the world and you go tell somebody, no, I only eat meat or whatever, you go to dinner with them, a holiday, whatever, they all think it's just the craziest thing. And I've now learned to treat them a little gentler, because I realized that they're just addicts like I was, and that we're threatening their drug by our lifestyle threatens their addiction, basically. And so that's why they're a little bit defensive of it, but the reality of it is when I get out of this and I get to, SPG, and I talk to my carnivore friends, I'm like, yeah, this is real. This is where health is. This is where freedom is. This is where quality of life is. And this is what we want to be an example of, and to inspire everybody in our day-to-day lives. But the only way we can do that is if we all get as healthy as we can get, we thrive, we get as, be as happy as we can be. And then it starts pulling in the sick people in our real lives, which is happening to me right now. People are coming to me going, what'd you say you're doing again? What was that crazy diet? I'm thinking about trying it, It's pretty interesting.
What's crazy is that they think it's crazy. That eating real food is crazy and woo-woo. Did you see the Atlantic call it woo-woo?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because boy, they brought that crazy. It's not crazy to eat bugs or have lab-grown fungus protein for meat. That's not crazy. It's crazy is eating those darn cows that have been here since the beginning of time. How we thrived. Yeah,
I don't
It's up.
get it. You know,
No,
I just keep I try not to be mean, but I'm like, you guys need to eat more animal fat. It will help heal that cognitive deficiency.
exactly.
Um, but it's like up is down and down is up today in today's society. So
Oh, it is. It well, and I mean,
yeah.
that is what the Bible says will happen, right? Right. We are out of
I
polarity.
do believe it's Timothy in the book of Timothy.
Yeah. And we
Yeah,
are there. We are surely there. We are living in idiocracy right
we are
now.
there.
Yeah.
We are definitely there.
But that's
Oh
why we just
yes,
have to be the examples, you know?
me too, Lori. Me too. I am so glad to be woo woo. Um,
For sure.
but yeah, so this has been great, and I know that you've got somebody coming up, and I'm sure you'll want to go and prep for that. So everybody who is on my channel watching this, how to find Todd is absolutely in the description, and you can go do that. So if you are part of Todd's channel and you have not subscribed to me on YouTube, I do appreciate it. Please get me to 1,000. That's my goal by the end of the year. Is can I please reach 1,000? That's all I'm asking.
We'd greatly
So
appreciate
yeah,
it if you would subscribe and get her to 1,000 so she can get off the ground.
yeah, yeah. So, and also, if you're not part of the Healing Humanity community, come follow us on the channels. I think like healinghumanity.movie. There's a website coming too. Well, the website is up, and then there's healinghumanity.life that is coming, and we've got a lot of great things, coming
For sure.
soon.
Ooh,
And
I
yeah,
should give a shout out too to Hack Your Health this year in Tampa, Florida. Well, actually, November of
absolutely.
2025, Tampa, Florida.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to be there with SBG Gang. I'm on their panel, and we have a $100 off code right now, all capital letters carnivore. If you guys would go to Hack Your Health, if you guys are going to go and you want to meet us there in Tampa in 2025, use coupon code carnivore, all capital letters, and that will get you $100 off. It's like the next 30 days, this is going to be the cheapest you can get tickets, and then it goes after that to $50 off, and then I think it goes to 25 after that. So right now is the
See,
best time to get them.
you know what really sucks is that we don't find out where we're going to move to until like December.
Oh,
Possibly. There is always that small possibility it could be March.
oh wow.
And so I don't know if we will be like here in the States, on
Right.
like this side of the States, whether we'll be in Hawaii or whether they'll be really mean and send us to someplace like Germany.
Oh no.
And and then I will not be flying back for Hack Your Health
Right.
unless somebody pays my way.
For sure. Well,
So
maybe if is Barry gonna be at Hack Your Health this year?
I do not know. We find out, let me tell you, I am one of his coaches, and we don't find out things till last minute.
I gotcha.
We when he flew out and he did like this big thing and put it out all over, it was like, I'm flying out to Los Angeles to go film for another documentary. We were all like, what? Like, I texted his executive assistant and she was like, this is the first I've heard of it. I'm like, we just
That's funny.
last to know. Everybody's last to know. I don't know. They will let us know when they let us know.
For sure. What's this? Amy
So
has a question there. Have you noticed that it seems like your fat is readjusting as you lose weight? I found that my fat moves around as I lose and rest on nerves, part of my legs over numb for a bit. I get that from fluid, right? So this is a weird thing. I I think my last addiction was actually water. I think I was drinking too much water. And what was
as I
weird
drink
is
more water.
I was drinking no joke about 2 to 2.5 gallons of water a day there for a while. Like I was at like that was my fixation, my oral fixation, I guess, when everything else went away. When I stopped using Copenhagen and all this stuff, that was my last thing. And what was strange is I started doing dry fasting. When I started doing dry fasting, I became more fat adapt, which I never thought of before. But of course, when you're becoming fat adapt, you will create more metabolic pathways to fat adaptation by dry fasting because your body needs to get the metabolic fluid out of your fat cells. So I became much more fat adapt by dry fasting. When that happened and I tapped into my metabolic fluid, I stopped eating salt. I didn't, not because of, there wasn't a choice. My body just said, hey, we don't need salt anymore. So I haven't salted my food in 4 months. When I stopped salting my food and I started doing dry fast. So when I do a 7-day fast, I do a 24-hour dry fast, then a 24-hour wet fast, and then a 24-hour dry fast, and a 24-hour, I alternate. So I get 4 24-hour dry fasts in that time. When I started doing that, it dropped my water consumption, which I think is directly related to salt. And I only realized this when I was going through this priming because I made a brisket and I salted it. When I did, I drank a bunch more water. I gained a bunch of fluid weight. And I realized that I don't need the salt when I'm fat adapt because I'm tapping into that metabolic fluid. And if I don't have the salt, I don't drink as much. And the reason why I brought all this up was because now that I'm priming and I ate a little bit of salt, I too got a bunch more water on my legs, and that neuropathy happened. I get nerve numbness and pain in my legs when I get a bunch of fluid on there. So I was just saying that to see if that might be what's happening to you.
Maybe. I know that. So you don't know Amy, and Amy, is it okay if I say a couple things about you? I'm waiting to see what she says. I'm waiting because I don't want to spill all her beans.
Yeah, no worries. I was just curious because when she said, because that's what made me think of it, was when she said fat readjusting. Because I was like,
well, she does have lymphedema too.
Okay.
She's in Dr. Berry's community, and so she hasn't said anything. So I'm not going to air all her stuff out on YouTube, but she probably talks about it on her channel if you check her out. And very interesting situations with her.
Okay.
So she also was a missionary. Well, she still is a missionary, but yeah, she's not active right at this moment. She said that her YouTube there's not much there yet. A carnivore created in secret that's her channel.
Right on.
So,
yeah. A lot. And I feel on the lymphedema stuff, that is the hardest thing I still have to fight. And I'm starting to wonder, I don't think it's going to get a lot better until I get this skin removed, because I think I have to, I feel like my legs are such like, just empty spaces. They fill up with fluid so quick. Like that's the first thing, because they were so big,
Well, and I think that if you know Siobhan Huggins, she's fantastic. Do you know Siobhan?
I did not. No.
Okay, so her and Leslyn Keith work together a lot.
Okay.
On the lymphedema project. So Siobhan is one of the foremost experts in lymphedema. So she was on my channel. If you go and look under my lives, you can go see where she answered questions and everything. She was, she is so smart and knows so much. And lymphedema is very hard to treat, and it's very interesting, especially when you think about like skin removal and like people doing tummy tucks and things like that. When you do that, you're removing lymph nodes, and then it causes lymphatic dysfunction and so many things that have to be thought about that we just never, like, people just like, well, it's lymphatic system, who cares? Like, oh, well, it's kind of important.
Right. Well, and I definitely talked to Leslie Keith about that, about, I'm going to have probably 3 to 4 skin removal surgeries, and there's just no getting around it. So, but she said I have to deal with a lymph sparing liver revolve. Absolutely.
So Amy is a geneticist's dream. She has multiple genetic abnormalities, including Ehlers-Danlos is one of the big ones, and holes. She's got different holes in her heart.
Oh, wow.
And so just a bunch of congenital and genetic issues that like, and she has POTS, if you've heard of POTS.
Yep.
And yeah, so she's got all these things that just come together and makes it like a very perfect storm of things. So she is fighting a really hard but really good fight in some with the most amazing grace and good, just positive attitude. She's like a little light in our community over in Dr. Barry's community.
That's
So
awesome. Well,
yeah,
I feel you
and
there.
she's writing those books.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel you there. My niece has Ehlers-Danlos, and my brother has MS and POTS. So he seems to fight the POTS syndrome because he has that syncope and where he passes out when he gets up in the morning. And so that keeps happening to him. So yeah, but I think it was Chafee said, I was talking to Chafee when I was in Wyoming about my brother, and he said, yeah, if you have one autoimmune disease, you likely have a bunch. It's very possible. Yeah.
I have two. Well, they say it started with Sjogren's, but come to find out, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism first, but they never tested my antibodies. So I'm pretty sure it was Hashimoto's. I developed it right after I had my twins, and they just didn't catch that it was autoimmune. And then they were like, "But you do have this," and so really, it probably started out as the thyroid. So,
for sure.
Thank you, Simpson. Is Simpson Johns? Is that how you say your name?
Yep.
Okay.
I think so.
If I mispronounced it, I'm very sorry. I do not mean to. But yeah, so this has been great. I want to run and
for sure
see about dinner for the whole family and make sure everybody's taken care of.
But
this has been amazing. Anytime you want to
awesome.
do something, I'm up for it.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for stopping in, and we will see you guys next time. So.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.